Folks, welcome to Movie News Monday, where every single Monday live on Twitch, we cover everything going on in the world of entertainment. We talk movies, television, online media, podcasts. There's so much happening now. It's getting bigger. MCU, DCU, all the U's, you know what it is. So hey, if you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button so that the algorithm says, hey, I want to know what's going on with all those movies so that I can be the person at the parties going, do you know they're making this movie? They go, oh my god, they're making this movie? And you go, yeah, I knew that from this guy on Twitch. First, we got to talk about the news. And unfortunately, folks, I do have sad news that we have to kick off the show with today. And it is, unfortunately, the news about Catherine O'Hara's passing. Last Friday, completely unexpectedly, we learned that Catherine O'Hara had passed away. She was 71 years old and apparently was battling a brief illness is all we've gotten. But let's just acknowledge, just like Chad is saying here, an absolute icon of comedy. Catherine O'Hara, for me and for many people, is our Christmas time mom. If you don't immediately recognize her from all of her incredible works, you'll probably remember her as Kevin McAllister's mom in the Home Alone franchise. Most recently, a Golden Globe nominee for her performance on The Studio, which she was absolutely phenomenal in, essentially playing a fictionalized version of Amy Pascal. Great comedian, great performer, and from all the stories that have come out, a great person and collaborator. Super sad to hear about her passing. I'm sending all the love and all the well wishes to her family. Sending a lot of love again to Catherine O'Hara for her fantastic celebrated career, for being an incredible human being and blessing us with her talents. And look, you don't have to just be an incredibly talented filmmaker to leave an impact on people. Catherine O'Hara worked hard to be a good person and leave a positive impact in everyone that she knew. And this is just a small collection of folks who had something to say about her and about how she impacted them personally. So I like to take this as a reminder to look at the people around you, let them know you love them, let them know you appreciate them. And if you ever need a reminder to think about the impact that you can have on the world and the positive influence that you can leave, this is somebody who did that for everyone that she met and for millions of people that she never met and probably never would have met. So thank you, Catherine, for an incredible career and for making us laugh and smile with you. And we'll catch you in the next one. So a little bit of love that way for Catherine, and we're going to move on to the rest of the news. It's going to be a little bit of a tone shift. I don't want to keep it too somber. So once again, rest in peace. And we'll go on to the next one here. Our next story today, we got to talk about what happened with Odessa A'Zion and the deep cuts controversy. So where do we even start with this one? So if you don't know who Odessa is, she's kind of exploded in popularity over this last year with her leading role in Rachel Sennett's I Love LA show on HBO, as well as her sort of co-lead role in Marty Supreme, the A24 movie. Odessa's had a great big year. She's kind of been blowing up, and she was just recently offered a role in a deep cuts movie that was being developed by A24, which was based on a book, and there was a bit of a controversy that came out. So she was offered a role in Sean Durkin's A24 adaptation of Deep Cuts, and people took problem with it because the character that she was announced to be playing, the character of Zoe Guiterres, was a Mexican woman, or the character is a Mexican woman. And Odessa is famously not a Mexican woman, although the character is half Jewish, and Odessa is a Jewish woman. A lot of people took issue with her sort of, let's face it, like racial ambiguous look that she has to her, how that was basically seen as an excuse to sort of race blind cast her as a Mexican woman. A lot of people took issue with that, saying that the role should have gone to someone who actually is of Mexican descent, or at least of Latin descent. And it seemed that the commotion actually made its way to Odessa, who has exited the film. She says, "I'm with all of you. I'm not doing this movie. Let me make myself clear. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. I'm so sorry that this happened. I went in for Percy, but was offered Zoe instead, and I instantly said yes. I'm so pissed. I hadn't read the book. I should have paid attention to all aspects of Zoe before accepting, and now that I know what I know, fuck that, I'm out." So, you know, all power to her being honest and admitting the way that these conversations go. Look, we can't sit here and pretend that every single actor and every single performer has the opportunity to read every single script in full or read every single book and every single outline whenever they are being offered a role. And I'm not even gonna try and, like, you know, be holier than thou and say, like, the least that she could have done is looked up a Wikipedia and a character description or anything like that. Because look, she's got agents, she's got managers, she's got people that are helping her make those decisions. She went in and auditioned and got offered a role, and she probably got a phone call from an agent that said, "Hey, they want to offer you this role instead. Do you want it? This is the deal. This is the amount of money. This is the time that it's going to take." And she probably said yes to that, because people got to work, right? People got to work. They got to keep moving. And this is an A24 movie from a promising director that she was probably excited to work with, and why she originally auditioned in the first place. But all credit to her for admitting what happened and saying, "I'd never take the role from someone else that's meant to do it, that should do it. That's not me. There are a plentitude of people more than capable of playing this role, and I'm not one of them. I can't wait to see who it ends up being." So, you know, chat, I'm curious your thoughts about this. Ultimately, I think she made the right call here. That controversy would have followed the film, and frankly would have followed her for a while. And it makes sense for her to drop out and not take that heat and not jeopardize the momentum that she has going right now. And at the same time, like, this is her basically boomeranging the blame back to the studio, back to A24 and the casting team and the director for this movie, saying, "Hey, do the right thing." I think of similar controversies. I believe it was Ed Skrein. Ed Skrein basically was offered a role in the Hellboy reboot to play a character that was actually meant to be of Asian descent. And he ended up backing out of the movie for similar reasons, you know, basically saying, like, "I'm leaving so the role can be cast appropriately." He noted here, I found the thing. "It's clear that representing the character in a culturally accurate way holds significance to people, and that to neglect this responsibility would continue a worrying tendency of obscure ethnic minority stories and voices in the arts." So this was years ago, back in 2017. And I think it is the right move, and frankly, the least that you could do. This shows responsibility. I think that there's a fine line to navigate of accepting accountability, but also not being truly and completely beholden to your fandom and to your audience. I think that there's a level of that maybe happens a lot more with internet personalities, where there's that sort of parasocial responsibility component where they feel fully emboldened to respond to what their audiences say for fear of cancellation or fear of anything like that. I think about you know, I won't name names, but I think about how that happens with smaller celebrities, and with someone who is very clearly rocketing towards a very high level of success. I think it's good to show a step like this early in your career, but not let it become overbearing. All of that to be said, this did sort of open up a bit of a can of worms, which frankly I think deserves to be brought up. So following this, we had over 100+ plus Latino artists signing an open letter to Hollywood casting agencies in light of that backlash from Eva Longoria, John Leguizamo, Xochitl Gomez, and so many more, basically saying, hey, this is something that not only happens, but continues to happen, especially when it comes to Latin characters. And so that open letter states, recent casting decisions around the character of Zoe Gutierrez expose a troubling pattern. We acknowledge and commend Odessa for listening, reflecting, and exiting the project to become an ally. Yet, how did this happen? The absence of Latina audition opportunities and the choice to replace a clearly Latina character with a non-Latina actress signals a broader, ongoing erasure of our community from the stories that define our culture. This is not about any one actor or project. It is about a system that repeatedly overlooks qualified Latino talent, even as our identities, histories, and experiences fuel the most enduring stories. And frankly, I think it's a beautifully well-written open letter. That full letter is here and also indicates a list of demands, which, frankly, in my opinion, pretty based and like the least you could ask for. We implore you to join us and audition and hire more Latino actors for a diverse range of roles, including non-stereotypical leads, specifically non-stereotypical leads. Hire Latino executives in your green lighting rooms. Include Latino voices as consultants, writers, and producers from early stages of development. Create and support pipelines, mentoring, scholarships, and opportunities that expand access all levels of the ecosystem. And here is that list of all those names of Latino and Latinas who stand by this decision. And frankly, as somebody who is Latino myself, as someone who was born in South America and grew up here in the States, not seeing myself represented on screen a lot outside of some very specific, whether it be stereotypical or very blatant Latin positions. I agree with a lot of the things that this letter calls for, as well as that broader message of having Latino people on screen playing more than just their own positions, right? Like, yes, for a situation like Deep Cuts, it absolutely makes sense that a Latin person play the Latin character, or, the Mexican person plays a Mexican character. Even to things like freaking West Side Story, right? Like, Maria should be played by an actual Latina person, where in the original interpretation of West Side Story, that wasn't the case. The role was offered to a white woman and who was given a spray tan, right? Like, and things like that have happened historically. But I think it's also important to recognize as well that there are non-specifically, Latin characters, or even like non-ethnically specific characters, that there's no reason why they couldn't be Latino, why they couldn't be cast by a Hispanic or Latin actor, and being more aware of some of those opportunities for casting, I think, is important. Look, frankly, we could do a lot better with diversity in our casting and race blind casting or race conscious casting in so many different avenues. But I do think that it's especially prevalent and especially important to keep in mind that, like, Latin people, and specifically Latin people living in the United States right now, we are trending towards being the majority population in this country. And we are also currently, alongside a lot of other people, experiencing very targeted and specific campaigns that are hurting our communities and hurting the Latin communities. You think about everything happening with the migrant situation and the deportations and everything that ICE is doing. It's a scary time to be a Latin person, whether you're somebody who is an undocumented person or not, right? Like, the profiling purely exists. And so if we're going to get looked at out on the streets for being Latin, the very least we can ask for is to also be looked at for opportunities and for roles out here. So that's all I got to say on that. So here's hoping that we see some actual change. Here's hoping we can see casting directors and people out there listening. And look, casting directors, you're Oscar nominees now, right? Like, my mom is going to know what a casting director is now because you're going to be in the Academy Awards. Like, people are going to know you. You're going to have a bigger face in the world of entertainment. And, you know, the eyes are watching and we're looking and we want to see change. So let's see it, huh? Okay, folks. I said we talk about the internet here as well. This is a weird one. TikTok creator Khaby Lame. Khaby Lame makes a $975 million deal for his brand. Maybe you don't recognize him here in his glam look. Does that look a little more familiar? Does that look a little bit more familiar? Or maybe his Fortnite skin. Will you recognize his Fortnite skin a little better? Folks, Khaby Lame is a TikToker who his whole bit is that he reacts to videos of people doing outlandish DIY hacks or, you know, those rage bait videos. You know the ones that I'm talking about. Where they like put duct tape over the sink so that your clothes don't get wet while you're doing the dishes. And then he'll go and put an apron on instead. And he goes, and he doesn't say anything. He's nonverbal. I have never seen this man speak. But he is massive. So Khaby Lame has 160 million followers on TikTok. And with this following, he has created an empire, apparently. I mean, clearly you see him on Fortnite. But Khaby's brand, his entertainment brand, Step Distinctive Limited, has been sold to a Hong Kong-based financial firm called Rich Sparkle Holdings in an all-stock deal valued at $975 million. Now, let's take a second. Let's take a second here. First off, Khaby, my guy, this is awesome. I'm proud of you. Good for you. You built something. You built something for yourself. Hey, is it for me? No, not necessarily, but hey, all the power to you. That's incredible. Please. I've seen this before. I've seen this I've been around the internet before. You took an all-stock deal that is worth nearly $1 billion. Please sell most of it now. Sell as much as you can and cash out, because so many online creators took all stock deals that just went nowhere. The one that comes to mind immediately is Smosh. Remember when Smosh was sold to Defy Media? Where's Defy Media now? Nowhere. Bankrupt. Zero. Sold it for $0. They never cashed out. So Khaby sold his Step Distinctive Limited, and with that, also the rights to his company and 36 months of exclusive global rights to his brand being himself. And they have made clear their goals is, to generate more money. Khaby Lame's fan base commercialization could generate more than $4 billion in annual sales. What does he sell? What does he sell? Additionally, the company plans, and this is the fun part, the company plans to create an AI version of Lame that would include his face, voice, and behaviors to create multilingual social media content, as well as increase his output and posting capabilities across multiple time zones. There it is. There it is. So Khaby has sold his face and his likeness to a financial firm out of Hong Kong that is taking a guy whose entire brand is that he makes videos where he doesn't speak, very universal videos where he goes, and they will now make AI generated versions of his videos, which frankly, a lot of the rage bait you see nowadays is basically AI generated. So you're going to have AI generated videos of somebody reacting to AI generated videos, or I don't know. As part of the deal, the company adds that Lame will become a controlling shareholder. So, hey, you know, there's some hope here. Look, I think this is a weird deal. I think it's crazy how much they value the deal for. I hope he gets his bag. I hope that it works out for him. But I am nervous. Chat, what do you think? Would you take $1 billion to basically take everything that you've built and sell it to make an AI version of yourself? $975 million. $1 billion. Come on. That is generational. It's time for Brando Sando. Folks, Brian Sanderson's literary universe, Cosmere, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, has been exclusively picked up by Apple. This means the Mistborn series and the Stormlight Archive are officially a go at Apple TV and will be adapted for the screen. Now, I will be the first to say I am not as familiar with Brandon Sanderson, but I know a lot of people are, and a lot of people are very excited for this. We are hungry for some fantasy IP on our screens. Lord of the Rings franchise basically exploded the fantasy world back in the early 2000s. Obviously, the Game of Thrones franchise had its hold on that sort of entire genre of storytelling for the longest time. And maybe folks are kind of falling out of love with Game of Thrones. So it is time. It is time for our next interpretation. So Brandon Sanderson's books are the next big hit here for Apple TV, and they have signed a incredible deal to bring his books to life. So the first titles being eyed for the adaptation, the Mistborn series, is going to be developed for feature films, possibly with theatrical distribution would be my guess, seeing as Apple TV is not shied away from the theaters. F1 was their latest theatrical release, and it worked out for them pretty well. A lot of Oscar nominations, including Best Picture. So, hey, you know, not a bad deal. And the Stormlight Archives series is going to be developed for television. So, chat, y'all tell me, ones who are more familiar, is there synergy between these two? Are they all in the same universe? Are we going to have a Brando Sando multiverse where things that happen in the movies are going to affect the TV series or vice versa? I'm here for it. I'm here for it if that's the case. I imagine it's all set in the same world, but I don't actually know. I'm excited. Oh yeah, big time. Hell yeah. Awesome. Love that. Love that. I'm excited for this. I do think that fantasy storytelling is really fun and unique, and they all have the capacity to be so different. And I think that we're missing out by not seeing more brought to life on the screen. And look, I know the books exist, and the books will most of the time be the better way to consume the media, but this is going to open it up to so many different people and open up basically a new way for folks to relive the experience. I can only relate to it on my end from being a comic book fan, getting to see comic book adaptations in movies and TV, or being a gamer who gets to see video game adaptations done for film and TV, right? Like, it lets you experience it all over again in a whole new way. And I imagine that that's the same type of joy if you've been someone who's read this for a long time to be seeing. What's very special about this deal is that Sanderson will be, as Hollywood Reporter says, the architect of the universe. He is going to write, he's going to produce, consult, and have final approvals, final creative approvals. Level of involvement that J.K. Rowling and George R.R. Martin don't even have. So his creative control is going to be significantly higher. And if you, like me, have somehow missed out on the Brando Sando benefits here, his his books and his world have been massive. There are conventions that are strictly dedicated to this book series. There's been over 100 million raised through crowdfunding and Kickstarters for this series. It has a dedicated fan base, as someone in chat here pointed out. It's a cult, but it's a nice one. And it has a very dedicated community as well, which Brandon Sanderson is aware. So over on the Cosmere subreddit, over on Reddit, Brandon Sanderson actually went in and made a statement to his subreddit to let everybody know what's going on. He said, "News are broken, and rather than post all the threads, I figured I would do a new post here with some info. In May, I flew to Hollywood to start looking for a new partner. It's my first time in Hollywood since 2016. This time, I got to meet the real decision makers, not just producers or low-level executives, and this led me to some really tough choices. The decision to pick Apple was due to two factors: the level of approvals and control. Apple wants to be a true partner with me, and they feel like they really get what I want to do. And second, their track record. Apple does fewer things, but with higher quality than some other studios. I find virtually everything of theirs I watch is excellent and creator-driven." So, if that doesn't inspire a lot of confidence, I don't know what else will. I'll be very excited to see and hear more about this. I think Apple TV is definitely ready to get their Game of Thrones, their Lord of the Rings. And, you know, so many people have tried. I think Netflix kind of gave up on fantasy worlds. Their closest bids were Stranger Things and Bridgerton, I suppose. HBO obviously has the Game of Thrones franchise that they're continuing to create content for. Prime put their eggs in the Lord of the Rings basket. And Disney Plus, I guess you could count Percy Jackson as their soiree into the fantasy world. They did try with shows like Willow, but that didn't really take off. And in fact, Willow's not even on the platform anymore. So Apple TV says we're going to hedge our bets on Brando Sando. So I'll be excited to see more about this. We're going to keep an eye on it. But folks, let me know. What do you think? Are you looking forward to seeing the Cosmere world brought to the screen? Is there something about it? To someone who's not a fan, what is the most exciting thing about it? What are you most looking forward to? Speaking of fantasy worlds, we can't talk about it without addressing the elephant in the room, which is, of course, Harry Potter. Now, as you know, HBO is developing a new Harry Potter series based on the books by J.K. Rowling, meant to be a slightly different adaptation than the film franchise, which obviously we've all seen, we all grew up with. And John Lithgow is going to be portraying Professor Dumbledore, and he recently did an interview talking about basically the controversy surrounding it and his decision to play the character. And frankly, I thought he had some good stuff to say. Asked about J.K. Rowling, John Lithgow said, "I take the subject extremely seriously. She has created this amazing canon for young people, and it has jumped into the consciousness of the society. It's about good versus evil, kindness versus cruelty. I find her views ironic and inexplicable. I've never met her. She's not really involved in this production at all, but the people who are remarkable. It upsets me when people are opposed to me having anything to do with this, but in Potter canon, you see no trace of transphobic sensitivity. She's written this mediation of kindness and acceptance, and Dumbledore is a beautiful role. It was a hard decision. It made me uncomfortable and unhappy that people insisted I walk away from the job, and I chose not to do that. I am perfectly ready for collisions of opinion. I understand it." So, you know, that's fair. Honestly, I think that's really fair and really well said. Obviously, John Lithgow was faced with an impossible choice here of securing, you know, what I'm imagining is a very healthy deal of playing Dumbledore for probably the next 10 years with the 7 seasons of television that they'll be doing here. But also, Dumbledore is a very beloved character, and he's a character that is extremely complicated and has so many layers. He's also a character that was sort of outed as being a queer character following the conclusion of the books and the conclusion of the movies. So that's something that was never explored specifically on screen before. There's so much that you can look at there. And, you know, I do agree with part of what he has to say is that there's no explicit, to my knowledge, again, I haven't read the books, I only grew up on the movies. There's no explicit transphobia or bigotry built into the world of Harry Potter. Now, one could argue that there has been a fair argument to be made about the sort of anti-Semitic views of the creatures in the banks, and some folks have brought up some stuff that I don't know that I'm the one to make the best comment about it, but I have seen those arguments been made, and I think it's worth considering all angles. All of that to be said, you know, Harry Potter is something that means a lot to a lot of people, and I think that, you know, besides J.K. Rowling and besides her, frankly, as I will happily and wholeheartedly stand on in saying that J.K. Rowling's viewpoints are disgusting and unnecessary. And if you are a trans person or you know trans people, you are welcome here in my community with open arms and respect, as long as you're not an asshole. That's my rule. I'm kidding. But look, I think that to live in a world where you are choosing to disrespect people for their identity rather than giving them a chance to show you who they are is what I think just sucks the most about that, right? And that's kind of the joke that I was trying to make there, just phrased more eloquently. But I also recognize the position that John Lithgow, and I'm sure a lot of this cast is in, that it's an incredible opportunity. I think especially about the children who are playing, Harry, Ron, and Hermione and everyone else. Like, it is not just a career defining opportunity, but like generationally defining opportunity. Like, that's going to change your life, your parents' life, your children's life. Like, it's going to have such a massive impact and opportunity to be Harry Potter. And so, yeah, I get it. I get why you would choose to move forward with that. So we will see. I am still not sure how I feel about the fact that this show is happening still at this point. I just really don't know. I don't know what the goal is, and everything I've seen looks very similar to the film adaptations. So the question of why comes to mind. But, you know, I guess we need something to compete with the Brandon Sanderson that is coming to Apple TV, so why not Harry Potter? Did you know that Ted Lasso's coming back? Ted Lasso season 4, we have our official first look. It is coming this summer, and here is Ted Lasso reuniting with the world of soccer, this time with the women's team. You know, I'm conflicted. Look, I love Ted Lasso so very much. I think it's an incredible show. You should definitely watch it if you haven't seen it already. I just thought that season 3 was so beautiful and so well executed. Look, I'm going to have faith in the creative team of Ted Lasso because they made some of the best seasons of comedy that I've seen. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt here. I just don't know why we needed more other than just, I guess for the V-Bucks. But I still stand by one of my predictions of my 26 predictions for 2026. We'll see if I'm right. Will Ted Lasso be a one and done? Is this just going to be one more season and then it's over? We will find out this summer. Speaking of first looks, we also have our official first look at the Beatles from director Sam Mendes. And I guess they're just calling it the Beatles, a 4-film cinematic event, because they have referred to it as such since back in CinemaCon when they made the initial casting announcement. I guess that's just what this is called. But we have our first look here at our principal cast. Paul Mescal looking identical to Paul McCartney. He's got to be wearing like prosthetics for the nose and eyebrow, right? Like he looks exactly like Paul McCartney. Barry Keoghan as Ringo Starr. The hair is good, but that's Barry, Joseph Quinn as George Harrison, and Harris Dickinson as John Lennon, who looks awesome there as John Lennon. I don't know what this is going to be. I thought I understood that the 4-film cinematic event was going to surround the Beatles during the same time period, but looking at this photo, I'm wondering if this is going to cover multiple years of the Beatles' journey through a different Beatle as the lead character. Look, at the end of the day, this is going to be a first of its kind theatrical experience. We're talking 4 movies. Are they full-length movies? Are they full 2-hour movies? I have no idea. 4 movies surrounding the Beatles. Really, I guess the only way that you can do it. How are ticket sales gonna work? What release timeline are we looking at? They said April 2028. So like every week in April, is it gonna be like the Avengers Doomsday teasers where you have to go to the theater to catch the next one? Am I gonna have to clear out my whole schedule so I can watch all 4 of the Beatles movies? I just don't know. This casting is excellent though. Harris Dickinson and Paul Mescal are absolutely the standout castings here. Joseph Quinn as George Harrison, I don't see it, but I do trust Joseph Quinn as an actor. I don't know. I like Sam Mendes. I think he's a talented director. This is clearly a stacked cast. I have no idea how this is going to work. I am a huge fan of the Beatles, so I will be watching in one way, shape, or form. I just want to understand better how I'm going to be watching. What do y'all think? Do you want to watch? Would you go to the movie theaters 4 times to get the same story? Like, are you going to go see all 4 Beatles movies in the theaters? Are you going to wait till they come home for streaming? I believe it's Sony who is developing this movie. So now that we know they've signed that landmark deal with Netflix, they will all be coming to Netflix. So you don't necessarily have to wait. Let me confirm that though. Yes, it is Sony Pictures, so they will be on Netflix. Honestly, probably not. Yeah, and I don't blame you. Like, that's a lot to ask for. Now, while we're speaking of the theatrical experience, we gotta acknowledge this fantastic success that we just witnessed in both the online entertainment space, but also the Hollywood space. Markiplier, famous YouTuber Markiplier, just made and released his own independent feature called Iron Lung, based on a video game that he had played. And this movie debuted at number 2 at the box office this weekend on a relatively limited release. And it is an incredible story of independent filmmaking. So, movie debuted at number 2 in the States with 17.8 million in just over 3,000 theaters, with its total global box office being 21.7 million. Not far behind the number 1 seed here, which was Sam Raimi's Send Help, which launched at $30 million. So, relatively small margin there as far as, the jump between number 1 and number 2. On a movie that cost $3 million to produce, very nearly, this is 7xing your original deposit. That's crazy. That's awesome. So Markiplier's film, fully independent funded, fully independently distributed, debuted at number 2, and the movie is seeing relatively success. It seems to be hitting well with the fans of the Iron Lung game and with fans of Markiplier, who starred, directed, worked, produced the movie. Markiplier said, I personally don't care about the numbers other than woohoo success. I'm going to be able to give the crew a big bonus, and that's awesome. I'm not a big studio. The split with the theaters is basically 50-50. It's really cool because everybody wins. It's kind of a hero moment to showcase that indie filmmaking is possible. So is this a potential future that we see for independent filmmaking? Can we see a world where creators who are interested in transitioning into a traditional media space go the self-funded route? I mean, you have so many successes that you can look at the online space with things like Dropout and Second Try Entertainment, where they create their own streaming services with a multitude of success. But we haven't really seen transitions into the theaters like this. Look, there's been many a YouTuber made for TV movies that have existed over the years. Things like the Fred movie, the Smosh movie. There was even a Ryan Higa movie. I'll say that because it wasn't called that when it came out. So there's been many instances of that happening, but we haven't really seen it to this scale and to see it at this level of success. Look, number 2 against a 20th century production for a Sam Raimi movie is pretty big. Nearly $30 million. Let's be honest. Let's not be generous. $21 million, which is still a lot of money. $21 million in January is impressive. Okay, this is like the quietest time in movie theaters. I think that this is a very promising sign, and I hope that studios and I hope that other creators are looking at this and understanding what it means. Frankly, you talk about different sort of award categories that exist, like, talk about achievements in box office, Golden Globes. This is an achievement in box office. This is a movie that's not going to be in theaters next weekend, on a 1 weekend premiere, essentially. This is how it performs. Very close to a massive movie by a internationally, globally successful director like Sam Raimi. So all the props to Markiplier. I hope the next one does just as well, whether that be yours or whether that be another creator that decides they want to break into the big screen. Little shout out to our forgotten series, The Acolyte. Man, so many people so mad about something, and now it's just gone and it's a memory. And will we ever see a season 2? I don't know. Maybe with Kathleen Kennedy's departure, Dave Filoni will say, yeah, let's give it an animated sequel or something. Who knows? But Leslie Headland, the creator of The Acolyte, did confirm that The Stranger was meant to be the first Knight of Ren, which a lot of people sort of speculated, obviously based on his look, but there were some clues and some cues. Specifically, there was a lot of musical cues that seemed to tie the Stranger to Kylo Ren that a lot of people were speculating about. Leslie confirmed it was in the design of the character, as well as knowing we were introducing Darth Plagueis, who we knew would end up with Palpatine at one point. One way to keep it going is if the Stranger is the first Knight of Ren, part of a Sith adjacent culture that we know eventually survives. So will we ever see this play out in one way, shape, or form? I don't know, man. I don't know. I kind of hope so. I think at the very least give us a book series or an animated series or something. Or just give us a second season. It wasn't that bad. But folks, that's going to wrap up our Movie News Monday for the day. So if you are watching live, stick around. We got some more things for you to enjoy. Keep an eye out over the next week. Chat. Make sure you're following me on Instagram and TikTok and all the other short forms, because this week we are going to be at the SCAD TV Fest, the SCAD Television Festival. We are going to be going there this week. We're going to be boots on the ground covering Scrubs. We are going to be covering Scrubs, Bridgerton, Abbott Elementary, and of course, our favorite, The Pit. We'll be attending a special screening and panel of The Pit So make sure you're following on all the socials. Yeah, hey, appreciate that, chat. If you're watching on the YouTube, hey, hop on over to Twitch on Mondays and you get to hang out with us even more. Today, we're going to be talking about EGOT winners because we just got a brand new EGOT winner on Sunday with the Grammys that just took place. But if you want to find our content in short form, check us out on Instagram and TikTok, or subscribe right here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. I have been Jupy Gorg. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you at the movies. Bye, YouTube. Say bye, YouTube chat.